Jeffrey Baffo here, HumbleBumble Chess Services, Chess Video. It is Monday, the 8th of June, 2020. And continuing with, this is part 2 to building your chess repertoire. And if you look at the visual aid that I presented last time, we are right here in this area here, the highlighted area. So, and I am going to kind of be looking at the sheet to make sure I cover everything. I apologize, I'm not making eye contact with you continuously, but an opening repertoire is, just a real brief recap, is a set of responses that you have pre-planned and pre-practiced before you go to a chess competition. And again, the chess competition I'm talking about is an over-the-board in-person tournament, not an online tournament. So yeah, here we go. You've got in part 1, I talked about exposing yourself to a lot of different openings to see which one piques your interest, so that you can begin building a repertoire with those responses. So you've exposed yourself to a lot of openings, and you've got your the openings that you want to start working on. So how do you build those responses and get things going with that? Well, the best way to do that is to, once you've got your initial opening moves picked out, to just play those frequently. So in other words, again, we're going back to online competition as a tool to help prepare you for the real competition, which is the in-person competition. So by using online sources, and we talked about those free websites you can use to play, you can also play against an engine. I prefer online play because for the most part you're playing human beings, although some of those human beings will be using computers to help them. Even that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it can be very discouraging when you get wiped out by a computer cheater, but it's still experience. It's still something that's going to help you, as long as you don't let it get you down too much. The chess playing websites are working very hard to stop the cheaters. So you're just going to have to, you yourself can't stop them. So don't worry about it. Just play a lot of different games. And then from there, you're going to be able to make some decisions. Now, obviously, we don't have unlimited time to invest in our repertoire. There's other training we need to do, and there's other, life things we need to do, for gosh sakes. So at some point, you're going to have to make a decision of when to hold the line in terms of, you're just going to have to go with what you have. So once you've played a lot of different openings, the questions you want to ask yourself in terms of building your repertoire are, what are the responses that I see most frequently? And what are the responses that I'm most concerned about? What scares me the worst? Because if you see danger in an opening, even though it might not be a frequent guest, so to speak, in your games, it's something you want to be prepared for. And then, so again, you want to decide by frequency and by how critical the line is, how much effort you're going to spend on those lines. Now, in order to do that, you're going to need to do a little basic statistical analysis. It's not that hard to do. Basically, it's just simple percentages and things like that. And you can use software to do it. If you're real old school, like I sometimes am, you're just going to use paper and pencil or pen and a calculator, and you're going to say, hey, look, I faced this move 5 times. All the other moves I only faced once or twice. I faced this one move 7 times. So I'm going to concentrate on the moves that I faced 5 times and 7 times, because those seem to be the ones that most frequently appear in my games. If you looked on the visual aid that I showed you, 2B has a website there. It's a free website. It's Shane's chess information database, and it's a way of managing the games and even using statistics to find out what openings you face most frequently. So that's what I would recommend. Even I'm moving into that modern, the modern age with that type of a tool. But if you had to, you could use old school paper and pen and a calculator and just divide. Hey, I played 15 games and 6 of them were this game, and that percentage is blah blah blah. So, but you're going to need to have some way to track that. A lot of the chess software that I mentioned in my previous video, like Fritz, Stockfish, Komodo, things like that, they will also have a database function and what's called an analysis tree, where the branches go off in different areas. And you can easily use that as well. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to and a little bit of training, but not too bad. Let's see here. And then we got the topic of how broad and how deep your repertoire is going to be. So in other words, if you're playing E4 or in the old school pawn to king 4, there's a lot of different openings you can face there. There could be the Sicilian, the Caro-Kann, the French, the open game, and then within each one of those, there's different subdivisions. So as I said earlier, you only have a finite amount of time where you're going to draw the line. I'm going to study the Sicilian, the French, and the Caro, but other moves I'm just going to have to trust to my work at the board, and I'll try to figure out the best moves there. And then how deeply are you going to go in like, say you've chosen to study the Sicilian, you're going to go the Sicilian to about move 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever you decide, and I'm going to be reasonably well versed in that up until that depth, and then beyond that, I'm just going to have to work hard at the board and play chess and do the best I can do. So breadth is how many different responses you're going to be prepared for, and depth is how deep into that particular line you're going to go. Okay, so, and then the other thing is you're going to have work of, memory work. So in other words, there's going to be lines that you're just going to have to memorize exactly because they're so sharp that you cannot rely on general indications. And then there's the other part of it is where you are going to be able to use guide posts or signposts or ideas, general themes and ideas that you can use to it's kind of like navigating in the wild. If you were set down in a totally unfamiliar geographical location, there's still some ways that you could learn, that you could use to orient yourself, like the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, etc., things like that. So your openings will have guideposts and signposts like that, and to a greater or lesser extent, you're going to be able to use those to find the right move in some situations. Not all situations, but so that's the other thing that you have to decide is where am I going to need exact memorization of lines, and where can I use the goals of my opening to help guide me where I cannot memorize every single thing. So that's all for today. I'm going to have part 3 of this, and I really appreciate you tuning in. My chess videos are at YouTube, HumbleBumble Chess. Search there. I've probably got 32 or 33 videos, and I'm making more all the time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.